So basically, I've been reading and wanting to read books and wanting to write books for as long as I could remember. When I was 3 and 4 years old, I was in like a preschool program, and I would always ask the teacher to write things down and I would draw the pictures. That's my cousin. I'm sure she would appreciate that. That right there, that's my mom. Not the best artist in the coloring box, but I always wanted to write and I always wanted to read. When I first started reading, I would read the basics, Roald Dahl books, Junie B. Jones books, Cam Jansen. I loved Cam Jansen. Roald Dahl probably being my favorite. I loved reading The Twits. I also loved The Witches, The BFG, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, obviously. So many good books. When I got a little bit older, there were Judy Moody books. I loved the Judy Moody books. And then I went on to my first actual series, which was the Shadow Children series. Loved that series. The first book made me cry, and then everyone after that was absolutely wonderful. They were very suspenseful for a child to read, and that's why I loved reading them, I guess. After that, I pretty much became obsessed with the author Margaret Peterson Haddix, the one that wrote the series. Leaving Fishers was a really good one. That one really made a mark in my mind when I was little because it was semi about like religious cults. And you hear about religion when you're little and you go to like church and everything, but you don't actually understand the danger of some of it. So that was really interesting for me to read in like grade school. I also have Running Out of Time, The House on the Gulf, and Escape from Memory, all by Margaret Peterson Haddix, and I think I had other ones. I probably gave them away. I also have Double Identity by Margaret Peterson Haddix, right there. Other books that I absolutely loved and I read countless times when I was little. Holes. I practically memorized Holes. I love this book so much. And Absolutely Normal Chaos, that was another book that I just read so many times. I don't even know why I loved this book so much. It was a really cute story, I think. I just read it over and over and over again. The Click series was the next series that I read, just the really, really girly series that's like the equivalent to Gossip Girl, except for in middle school, but I read it in grade school. Harry Potter, of course, my sister read me the first one, and then I gradually, started reading them from there. And then in middle school, Twilight came out, so for 6th and 7th grade, I would read the Twilight books, and I loved those books as well. Then I was in 8th grade. I'm 13 years old, and things start looking a little iffy, Things start getting a little rough around the edges. You understand life a little bit more, but not quite. You're not actually getting the full picture. I guess that's when I seriously got into reading because it helped me understand so much more about growing up and about life and what's going on around me in the world. I felt very sheltered, as I'm sure a lot of other people must have felt very sheltered when they started reading, because this entire new life just develops around you. Most of the books that I read when I was little was like entirely fiction or fantasy fiction, anything like that that sort of got me into a different sort of world. In 8th grade, I read the Burn Journals. This started me off in 8th grade, and it is a very sad story about a boy that tries to kill himself by lighting himself on fire. He didn't succeed in killing himself, and then he spends the entire time in a rehab center, and it is so tragic. But he was 13 years old, and it completely opened my eyes, and then everything that I read from then on was just really tragic or very realistic fiction. This was a memoir, which got me into reading more memoirs. Next memoir that I read was Running with Scissors by Augustin Burroughs, which is no longer on the memoir list, however it was at the time. I can say now that I definitely shouldn't have read this when I was in 8th grade, but then again, I probably didn't understand half the things that were happening in it in 8th grade, but it did open my eyes. Augustin Burroughs was growing up in this book as I was, but in a completely different life. This just brought on a slew of new books that just blew my mind. Each book that I read had something to do with different philosophies or people growing up, or some sort of tragedy that happens that I've never experienced. I started reading more realistic fiction, more memoirs and all of that because I want to understand the world around me. I love reading about other people's opinions because it helps me make my own opinions on things. Everybody's ideas are developed by other people's ideas, and reading books help me do that. And without books, I wouldn't have more of my own opinions that I can share with others. I think that's the most important thing about reading, and I'm so glad that I grew up with reading and grew up with books that I love that I can share with other people, and that's why I read, to understand more and share my knowledge. And I think that's awesome. In the comments, share with me why you read. Did you always like to read? Are you just starting to read now? What did you used to read compared to what you read now? All of that stuff. Do you go into a different world when you read, or do you try and understand things? I'm really very curious because I'm sure that a lot of people are readers for different reasons. I hope you guys are having a great day, and a part 2 of this video will be coming out within the next few days. Bye!